Shadow work is an important part of our personal and spiritual growth. But before we can dive into what it means to do shadow work and why it's good for us, we must first look at the shadow itself and what that means. Sometimes I like to think of our shadow self as the submerged part of an iceberg. There's so much more there than what we show on the surface, and there's so much more going on than we allow other people to see. There are many facets to our shadow self. The shadow consists of things about ourselves that we weren't totally aware of, our fears, phobias, traumas, past hurts, things about us that we tend to suppress or hide from ourselves and others. In other words, things we tend to reject about ourselves. Shadow work is the process of becoming aware of these things so that we can work through them and start healing. Why should we do it? Why is it good for us? First of all, nobody is forcing us to do this. However, the heightened vibration of our planet, and you can see a video on that, I'll throw a card about here somewhere, has been causing people's unhealed and unacknowledged stuff that they've been stuffing down for a long time to come back up, seemingly out of nowhere. Acknowledging our shadow self allows us to slowly accept parts of ourselves that we had previously rejected. This acceptance can lead us to have more compassion for ourselves. And when we have more compassion for ourselves, we tend to show more of it to others. I see this as an absolute win. The increased acceptance and compassion can help us to take back, so to speak, the things that we have projected onto other people. So for example, "You're just too picky" may become, "I settled for something less than what I wanted and I was jealous that you didn't settle." Now that the jealousy aspect has been acknowledged, we can take steps towards accepting and overcoming it. Shadow work can be very uncomfortable at times, but what's even more uncomfortable is letting our unhealed and unacknowledged stuff take over. When we put off this type of healing work, it can manifest as physical or mental illness or pain. While acknowledging and working on our shadow, we can have aha moments, important realizations that help us to grow and help us to understand parts of ourselves so much better. As a result, shadow work can actually trigger a spiritual awakening in many people, and I think this is a wonderful thing. It really is. It's huge, but it's so important. I think the most important thing, though, about shadow work is that it eventually helps us to accept and learn to love ourselves. Now, there are some things to remember regarding shadow work. There's no need to put pressure on yourself to get better. You're already complete and whole, and you've always been at your core this beautiful light being. Don't put time limits on your healing. Oh my God, I am absolutely guilty of this. So no saying things like, "I'm giving myself 1 year to heal, and after that I have to be perfectly fine." Or things like, "I have to be perfectly healed before I can have any kids." Or, "I have to process and release every single one of my traumas before X date." It doesn't work like that. You can't do that to yourself, and I'm learning this myself. You do not have to process your traumas alone. Therapy is so helpful here, and I cannot recommend it highly enough. Or at least talk to somebody that you love and that you can trust. Finally, there's no need to compare your healing journey with anybody else's. And I've been doing this to myself too, and I'm learning not to do it because it doesn't help anything. Your journey is yours alone, and nobody has the right to rush you or put pressure on you. Shadow work isn't easy, but it is 100% worth it. So how do we do this shadow work? There are actually many ways to do this. And like I said a minute ago, therapy can help. Talking about your past experiences and your traumas with a professional therapist or somebody who works in the mental health field and can help you to find ways to process these issues and release them, or help you to understand them in a way that makes you feel better, or help you to process these things so that they just don't hurt so much all the time anymore. Another thing you can do is now I've been noticing that this has happened a lot with me, and I think this is happening with other people too. You might just be minding your own business, folding clothes, or like I was playing Mario Tennis last night and I had all of this old trauma come up out of nowhere, and it just made me sad and hurt all over again. And so what I did was I paused my game and I took some deep breaths, and I just said to myself, I allow this to come up. I'm allowing this to come up. I allowed the memories to come up, the thoughts associated with the memories. I allowed the emotions to come up, and that was hard. That was extremely uncomfortable. But afterwards, I actually even had like a little cry over it, and I felt so much better. And I felt lighter, and I felt like something had been lifted off of me. And that maybe took like 10 minutes tops. And I was surprised at how effective that was, to just allow yourself to let your emotions come up, let all your thoughts come up, and to just experience it without judgment. Alongside this, you can do a lot of journaling, writing down your feelings, writing down your thoughts, writing down what you've been through and what you've learned from it and how far that you have come, writing down what you're grateful for, writing down things that you are not comfortable speaking out loud, things about ourselves that we reject. Sometimes we feel really, really afraid to address these things, and especially verbally, that can be so uncomfortable to people. So writing is especially helpful when it comes to this. There are specific books out there that are made for doing shadow work. I don't actually own any, but I would love to at some point. So if any of you guys have a shadow work journal or anything like that, let me know how you like it. I've said it before in a previous video, and I will say it again because I love this analogy. At the time, I forgot who had initially said it, but going back through my memory, I think it was the YouTuber Christina Lopes. She was talking about how to handle shadow work and how to deal with trauma. And she compared it to a barrel of water that looks really still and it looks clean enough on top, but underneath there are all these layers of sediment and mud and muck. And what happens when we do shadow work is our barrel, which is essentially ourselves, gets shaken up. And all of this gross stuff that has been suppressed to the bottom is coming back up so that it can be removed and it can be cleaned and it can be it can become less of an issue for us. I really, really like that analogy. I'm going to keep using that analogy. I think that is a really, really good way to put it. And I know it's going to be really uncomfortable and it's going to be hard. I can't promise you that it's going to be easy at all. And I know I've been saying that again and again in this video, but it's so important. It is worth it though. You will be better off for having done some shadow work. And this does not mean that you have to deal with everything all at once. You might be able to just deal with one or two old traumas, or one or two things that you really, really rejected and hated about yourself. And then in the future, you might have the time and space and energy to deal with one or two more things here and there. Like I said, there's no need to put a timeline on it, no need to pressure yourself, and there's no need to have to deal with every single thing at once. Okay? All right, and that is my very, very basic explanation of what shadow work is, what the shadow is, and why it's important that we do this work and why it's so good for us. So if this video helped you, I'm really glad. Remember to like and subscribe to Seanna Rose Metaphysical. Let me know in the comments how your healing process has been going and what kind of techniques you use to help yourself to heal and feel better. With that, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to see you again.